Speak to us, Lord. Speak to us in the waiting and the watching and the hoping and the longing. Speak to us with your word in these Advent days and walk with us until the day of your coming. Amen. A familiar reading from the book of Isaiah, the first 10 verses of the 11th chapter. A shoot shall come out from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. His delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge by what his eyes see, or decide by what his ears hear, but with righteousness he shall judge the poor and decide with equity for the meek of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around his loins. The wolf shall live with the lamb. The leopard shall lie down with the kid, the calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the asp, and the weaned child shall put its hand on the adder's den. They will not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. On that day, the root of Jesse shall stand as a signal to the peoples. The nations shall inquire of him, and his dwelling shall be glorious. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Earlier this fall, the Royal Horticultural Society published the results of a study to determine if talking to plants is beneficial to its growth. Turns out it is. I was happy to read about that study because I talk to my plants. I talk especially long and hard to the plants I am about to prune or discard, how it's going to hurt me more than it's going to hurt them, that it's for their own good, yada, yada, yada. I still remember the first plant I cut down to nothing. It was a Madagascar dragon tree. I'd had the plant for a number of years before it made the move with me from Atlanta to Charleston, West Virginia. But the move had been really hard on it, and it never bounced back. So I took courage in hand and a Kleenex in the other hand and whacked it off down to just a few inches above the dirt. I threw it all away, except for the pot that still had the dirt with the bare stub in it. I put it back in a corner of the guest bedroom to deal with at another time. Some 2 months later, I was getting ready for house guests and happened upon that pot in the corner of the unused bedroom. I'd totally forgotten about it. And would you believe, it had a little green shoot coming out of it. I hadn't watered it, hadn't fed it, I definitely had not talked to it, and it was December, right in the middle of Advent. Over 30 years later, I still have that plant, and I still talk to it, and I've lopped it off a number of times through the decades, and I'm proud to say that I have a little forest of dragon trees at this point. The passage we have from the 11th chapter of Isaiah begins with a hope-filled vision. A shoot will grow up from the stump of Jesse. A branch will sprout from his roots. Isaiah's vision had to have been divinely inspired. It certainly did not come from anything the prophet saw around him in the 8th century BCE. The reality on the ground was that the mighty Assyrian army was storming through Palestine and leaving a trail of massive destruction in its wake. Isaiah had told the Israelites that trouble was coming because they had not lived as God had commanded them. So in the preceding 10th chapter, the prophet describes the destruction as the tallest of trees being leveled and stumps dotting the landscape. And yet, from the devastation comes a very tender shoot from the stump of Jesse. Even in the midst of that living nightmare, the prophet speaks of a time when the unimaginable will become reality. The wolf will live with the lamb. The leper will lie down with the young goat. The calf and the young lion will feed together, and a little child shall lead them. It was a comedian, Woody Allen, who said, well, the lion may lie down with the lamb, but the lamb won't get much sleep. It's not the natural way of things for a lion to stretch alongside a lamb unless that lamb is on a skewer. Children are taught to stay away from a snake's hole because it's generally not considered a good thing for a child's rattle to be attached to a snake. Most animals activate their protection devices when they feel threatened or unsafe. Fangs, quills, unpleasant spray. After all, it's survival of the fittest. And we do the same. We do the same thing. We have our own protection devices. Cold shoulders, verbal barbs, unfriending people, the whole cancel culture thing. And guns. But sometimes our defense systems are woefully inadequate. We feel like the lamb's about to be skewered. Terrible blows hit our relationships and our friends and our family. Crises erupt at work. Dreadful monsters attack healthy bodies. Doubt begins to knock chinks in what was thought to be a solid foundation of faith. No one feels particularly safe. And in the midst of that doubt and despair comes Isaiah's vision. Out of a stump is going to come new growth, not just any little dragon tree shoot, but the very one upon whom the Spirit of the Lord will rest. It's the peaceable kingdom, God's realm of shalom, of wholeness. The entire creation is part of this realm. Human beings, animals, the land itself. It's complete and it's comprehensive. It's a realm where predator and prey live side by side and share life together, where all dwell in safety, and no one is going to come and take that away. The peaceable kingdom is a vision that has inspired countless artists to put it on canvas. 19th century painter Edward Hicks was one such author. He painted over 100 renditions of the vision. And in his paintings, the animals and a small child are looking straight at the viewer with this wide-eyed wonder. Peace is startling, writes one theologian. You don't see it often, maybe ever. And when you do, it leaves you with eyes wide open, as if startled by this unlikely reality. Such peace is an unlikely reality, isn't it? Isaiah's vision is about the power of peace. And there's a difference between the power of peace and peace through power. We know well what peace through power means. It's part of the DNA of our country. The first president of the United States, George Washington, laid it out in his State of the Union address in 1793. He said, "There is a rank due to the United States among nations that will be withheld, if not absolutely lost, by the reputation of weakness. If we desire to avoid insult, we must be able to repel it. If we desire to secure peace, one of the most powerful instruments of our rising prosperity, it must be known that we are at all times ready for war." Presidents down through the centuries have echoed Washington's sentiments. It's obviously not just the United States that mobilizes around peace through power. After World War II, there was a movement for a unified European state. And one of the leaders of that movement said, to achieve that unity would require an abandonment of old conceptions of peace. He went on, "The new angel of peace must no longer be pictured as a charming but helpless lady with an olive branch in her hand, but like the goddess of justice with a balance in her left and a sword in her right. Or like the archangel Michael with a fiery sword and wings of steel, fighting the devil to restore and protect the peace of heaven." That is peace through power. We get that. What takes way more effort is to get our heads around something entirely different, something diametrically opposite to the mutual assured destruction approach, which is the reality of our world. A shoot will grow up from the stump of Jesse. A branch will sprout from his roots. The Lord's Spirit will rest upon him. The wolf will live with the lamb. The calf and the young lion will feed together, and a little child shall lead them. It is a gentle and elusive vision of peace. It isn't this huge, loud, marching band kind of peace. It's a quiet peace. Can you imagine it? Can you see it? Just imagine the Palestinians and the Israelis working side by side to tear down the wall and dismantle the checkpoints. Imagine drug lords and warlords and kingpins putting their entrepreneurial skills to work to serve their communities rather than to profit off of them. Imagine the haves and the have-nots sharing all things in common. Imagine whales no longer dying with bellies filled with plastic. Imagine no more school bullying. Imagine the biggest, toughest kiddo sitting together on the bleachers with the smallest, scrawniest one. Imagine no more gridlock in Washington. Imagine the aisle of Congress looking like the passing of the peace around here on a Sunday morning. Can you see it? It takes different eyes to see God's peaceable realm, eyes that see commonalities rather than differences, abundance instead of scarcity, peace instead of discord. The thing is, the beginning of that peaceable realm is slowly appearing on the horizon. If you look closely to the east, this tiniest, faintest glow of starlight is beginning to appear. From all indications, the light of that star is going to illumine the world in a way like nothing ever has or ever will. Light dawns on a weary world. I invite you to turn to hymn number 79.
Light dawns
trees shall clap their hands, the garlands gush with spring, the hills and mountains shall bring forth this singing. We shall go out in joy and be led forth in peace, as all the world in wonder echoes shalom. Love grows in a weary moon, when hungry hearts find bread, and children's dreams are fed. Love grows